Doing an intro? No, thanks. Just kidding. Hello, my name is Dragan Petrovski, and welcome to the Break It Down Show, your favorite show serving 5 episodes each week. In case you're wondering, I'm a writer for the show because Pete is so busy, and I gotta help him. Hey, you don't get to 1000 episodes if you're not busy. Since I mentioned that, I'm so glad that the show is reaching 1000 episodes. That is a very serious number, you know. Just try counting to 1000 and you'll see what I mean. Let alone recording 1000 episodes. Kudos for that, really. The guest for today's episode is Mark Pattison. Mark Pattison is an extraordinary human being. He's planning on climbing Mount Lhotse the day after he climbs Everest. That's incredible. I'm lazy even to go from one store to another, and for him to go one peak to another, I'm out of words. When he succeeds that, he'll be the first NFL player to climb the 7 summits. And it's all for a good cause. Personally, I wish him and his daughter Emilia all the best in the world. Also, don't forget to head to savethebrave.org and participate in supporting our mission by clicking the Donate tab. And now, our guest, the man with the 7 summits plan, Mark Pattison, and our host, Pete A. Turner.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland. This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Mark Pattison, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
This guy climbs mountains.
Big ones.
Yeah. The biggest.
The biggest, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I had you on a couple of times talking about your quest to become the NFL's first guy to summit all the 7 big peaks. With COVID and weather and all these other things have confounded your completion. But this year it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Plus, your big announcement of you're going to climb an extra bonus mountain.
And we're doing an extra bonus. You know, this really all started around my daughter, Emilia, who's got epilepsy, and that's been a challenge for her since she was 8 years old. She's now 22. She goes to the University of Arizona. And one of the things that when COVID, knocked the whole world off this last year, I was planning to go March 31st of 2020. So obviously that was, 6 months ago. It was a disappointment. And then I said, let's turn this into an opportunity. So not only did I start training hardcore again, but I also said, what could I do to really take the light off me, to reshine it and push it onto Emilia? I had run a campaign last year called Emilias Everest. We raised $29,029, which represents the height of Mount Everest. And so the way that Mount Everest is configured, there's a saddle. When you go up to high camp, it's 26,000 feet. And if you can think of it as like a camelback. Sure. And so on to your left, as you're looking up at the mountain, and as you approach it, you've got the height and the top of Mount Everest. And when you go to the right of that, you've got the 4th highest mountain in the world, Lhotse. And so I said to myself, you know what, let's just double down and let's go for it. So we've got a new campaign out there to raise more money for the Epilepsy Foundation. Actually, we partnered with Higher Ground. But it's the same type of concept, of to give towards an organization. They happen to be very heavily involved with the military and really trying to help those guys out with cognitive and adaptive issues that they have. People come to Sun Valley and people help them. So it's not just money, it's involvement. And we said, let's call this next campaign, Emilias Everest, the Lhotse Challenge. And so trying to raise $27,940. We're already after a great start. We've raised about $6,000 towards that goal right now. And then personally, to really make me go for it and go all in on that, one of the things that I'm going to do is within 24 hours of summiting Mount Everest, which is going to be a beast, is come back down, jump in my tent for a couple hours, and then get back up and go back out and go tackle the 4th highest mountain in the world. The combination has only been done by a handful of people, let alone no NFL player. And so it's just making me, again, really go after a big goal, and at the same time trying to shed and help my daughter out in some way I can.
This is military map making. See, like right here, this is the saddle. This is Everest. That's Lhotse. That's what he's going to do. This is how we use a fist to land nav, so you can remember like mountains, ridge.
I love
saddle,
that. Yeah.
Cliff.
Yeah.
Draw.
You better have some big knuckles, too.
Yeah.
Those are big boy mountains.
So, let's get into the mountain part. You've been on a bunch of times and talked about all the basic stuff, like, not putting yourself at risk, like you want to be able to climb and all that kind of thing. But so you're camping above the zone of death. And how long can you stay up there? Because you're 26,000 feet for base camp, right?
Yeah, so that's death zone territory. The highest I've been is 23,000. And so at that point in time, we'll have oxygen mask on. That's going to be key to make this whole thing go. It's not something I'm interested in not trying to do without oxygen tanks. It's just like there's no frills in that. And it's really trying to capture as much energy as you can. And that's the whole game of mountain climbing is between, and this is all the nuances that people understand. It's the layering. Every time you stop, you're putting more stuff on. You get going, you take more stuff off. It's having the right fluids. It's having the right things to eat to keep your body.
Right.
The higher you get, your appetite gets suppressed.
Right.
And the other part about that too is just like the preparation of just going there. This will be going on now 2 years that I've waited to go do this thing. And last time I was on a big boy mountain was January 2019. So now we're going to be talking about getting over there the 1st of April of 2021. So it's been kind of a big gap, but I did move my entire life over to Sun Valley, Idaho. And that's been really a game changer for me because sometimes I think when people, they put a big goal, they don't go all in.
Yeah.
And this is really about moving to a place that we live at 6,000 feet. I'm literally in the mountains every day. I think in the month of July, I'm just going back to July right now. We're recording this obviously in November, early November. But I think I did 66,000 vertical feet.
Wow.
And that's a big number. I'm always up there. It's like when the lights go off, the real you gets revealed.
Yeah.
Because you can sit on the couch, you can go eat potato chips, you can go up, you can do whatever you want. And every single time I'm out there, I'm usually with my best friend, Jim Mora, former coach at UCLA. You've had him on the podcast.
That's right.
And, it's just the two of us up there, nobody else. And it's not like, look at me. It's just like, that's what it takes to get that kind of accomplishment.
Yeah. So there are those guys that do like the up and down twice. And they, do all these things. They go with no oxygen and they're training hard, but you're also training hard. What's the difference between trying to do these things with no oxygen or these double ascents or, in your case, a double ascent through the saddle?
Yeah. What's
What's the difference between that? Like, is it age? Is it just desire? Like that's something I'm focused on? How do you sort out like, who wants you're all doing impossible things.
Yeah.
So like when you sort out which impossible version of yourself you want, how do you figure that out?
Well, one of the things that's the big mystery is that everybody has unique body chemistry. And for some reason, and knock on wood when I say this because I haven't been that high, so I don't know exactly how my body is going to react.
Right.
But this is where, when you don't take care of your body or your body just is not adaptable to high altitudes. On the flip side of that, going the other direction, I have something messed up with the ears that I can't do it out. I can only go like 10 or 15 feet down, and then my ears feel like they're going to explode, and I can't get pressure in my mouth. So my body is not set up for that. Conversely, going the other way, going straight up, I've literally seen this when people get pulmonary edema.
Yeah.
It's either the lungs or the head.
Yeah.
Right? Cerebral, that's what I was going to say. Edema, where it's just swelling in your brain. It's nothing that you've done or you haven't
It's just
done.
you. Yeah.
It's just you. It's your body chemistry. And it's like somebody's taken literally 20 Jägermeister shots. You did that glazed look and just not being able to function and all those things. And it's really scary. The oxygen, the higher you get, the less oxygen you have.
Right.
And the whole game, and the reason why you're over there going up and down, like you mentioned, is to build up the red blood cells. Red blood cells in your body carry oxygen.
Right.
And so that's fueling you. The more O's you have, the more you can breathe. Big breaths. And so the higher you get, you're just like gulping for air. And so when you have that extra oxygen tank on your back, you've got that mask on, you're sleeping with that once you get to that elevation. And that just helps you power up. And just like, and I've heard it from other people because I've never used oxygen, man.
Yeah.
It's literally like, somebody just gave you a supercharge or something, and you're like, oh, you've come alive.
Why Lhotse? Like, why not one of the other things there? Like, now I'm going to go do, I don't know, K2 or whatever it's going to be. There's a lot of big mountains in the neighborhood. Why that It's convenient with the saddle? Or?
If at high risk, high altitude mountaineering, in that game, it's convenience of one being literally right next to the other,
right.
And you swing up this way and do this one, you swing that way and the other, and they're both intense, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be insane. And knock on wood, that you don't get those big lines that we saw a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
My tempmate from Antarctica died in that. But it is, like the climbing god's got to be with you. There's got to be a little luck, but you also got to put yourself in the right position to be able to bear through some of those different things.
What is the difference in technical? Like, you've already done all the hard stuff of getting to 26,000. So all that's behind you, and you're not going to have to redo that. But in terms of either summit, is one harder than the other?
Well, again, I haven't been on either one of these things, but there's some hardcore stuff going on with Everest. Going up on Everest, for example, is normally in all these expeditions, we're all tied in. So if there's a rope that is 100 feet long or 50 feet long or something, and there's 4 or 5 people attached every, 50 feet or so, you're all going up together, and you're going this way, and you're sitting down together, and they have fixed lines up there. So you're wearing a harness and you're clipping in.
Right.
And so there's some different stuff going on because you're always double clipped, but there are segments of the rope, and so you have to unclip to clip to get onto the new rope.
Sure.
And people their mind starts to go.
Yeah.
You think you're clipped, you're not, and that's where you hear people falling off the mountain, going to the down. Now, Lhotse is going to be a little bit different. It's a little bit lower, but it's way steeper. And I'm told that as you're climbing up, there's a very narrow cavern almost, that there's rocks on either side of you. It's full of snow.
Yeah.
And rocks and things come down on you, but also you can get some protection from the wind because you're kind of little thing going up. Channel. I think it's super steep right at the top as you're.
Yeah. Would you rather have steep or technical, personally?
So the steepness stuff doesn't really bother me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to go do El Capitan where you see free solo, for example, the guys climbing up the rock and like a Spider-Man. That just doesn't, I'm not interested in doing that type of stuff. But where it's in the snow and you're climbing ropes, and I've done quite a bit of that on Denali up in Alaska.
Right.
And some people have said Denali is a harder mountain than Everest, and we'll see. The X factor is you're going up another 9,000 feet.
Right. And you've never been there. I mean, can you make a reasonable guess in how you perform? Because you've been to 22,000. Okay, so can you make like an assumption like, I've been to 22, I should be okay at 29, or do you just not know? It's a different ball game.
It's a new ball game, and then there's some little tricks, along the way. Like, I mean, these seem common sense, but every year you get over there and people have issues. Being hydrated, I mean, super hydrated. I mean, anybody, you could be at sea level and be at Palm Desert, and if you're not hydrated, you're going to get fried and you're going to get bad things. Heat sickness, some heat stroke, happen to you. So it's really, really key that you have all the elements that you can. And then there's also a drug that you have to get a prescription for, and I've got a bunch of doses of it called Diamox. And again, it's there to help provide more red blood cell growth, and just helps expand the lungs and get you up. I don't like it as much. It makes you pee all the time. To run and stop. It's very inconvenient, but it does work. I don't know if I'll take that or not. I like to try to get as far as I can before I have to, even though people will say you want to take it like a week before, so your body starts to acclimate and produce it.
Right. Yeah, these things to manage. And like you talked about, there will be traffic up there, and you're moving as a group, and your pace is going to be pace. Is that right?
Well, not really, and that's the difference. Is because you're on a fixed line. I'm not tethered to somebody else. I'm just tethered to the fixed line. The pace might be dictated. We all saw those horrific scenes a couple of years ago. What the lines happen is because there's 2 weeks of the year where the jet stream rises above 29,000 feet, which allows safe passage. It happens 2 weeks in May in summertime and 2 weeks in the fall. That's it. And beyond that, you can't climb it. And what happened that particular year is the typical window is 11 to 13 days, for this jet stream to rise, and it never rose. And so what ended up happening, it stayed. And finally, when it went up, there was like a 2-day window, and everybody got summit fever and said, let's go. Yeah. And so it created all these lines. And so my frustration would be, and knock on wood, there won't be those kinds of lines, and it'll be spread out over that 2-week period.
Right.
Is that it'll be a nice calm day. There's not a ton of people up there.
Right.
If there's somebody that's easy to pass, I can, but that's not a mile long of folks that aren't in near the shape. And that's been my biggest problem to date, is that I always train harder than most. Therefore, I go faster than most.
Right.
Therefore, I'm better conditioned than most. But I can only go as fast as the weakest link.
Right. Yeah.
That's really been frustrating for me.
Yeah. I've been in a similar situation where I was more physically fit than my military peers. And you go out and you march for 10 hours, 12 hours. You just want to get off your feet at some point. You're like, we're only going to go these 26 miles or whatever it is. Yeah. The sooner I can get that done, within reason, you don't want to blow out, but, because you have to go do it again the next day. Like, I need to recover. I'll get this distance covered, but you're stuck walking in your group, and it takes you 12 hours instead of 8.
So frustrating, man.
Yeah, it's frustrating and painful. Like now I get less rest and everything. Anyhow, the other thing I wanted to ask, you said that your tent mate from your ascent in Antarctica, he passed away during the...
He died. I literally got to the top, struggled, got to the top, raised his hand in the air, fell over, and they got him down like 100 feet below that to the Hillary step. And actually, this was kind of weird. There's another guy that I've been in contact with that actually summited that year, and he had taken a picture of his buddies, but he was like above them. So he's turned around and was taking a picture back down at them. And he didn't realize this at the time, but toggled down on his back, of course, was this guy's name is Don Cash, and he was attached to the rope, but had passed away. He was just laying there. So these guys were actually stepping over him.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where his body just wasn't up to it.
He wasn't up for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be a little bent, to want to go do something like this.
Right.
And if you want to be successful, you have to be all in.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't all in. And he was more about the T-shirt and what it said. And he had this thing he'd always wear called epic shit, right? And he was really about that. And he had said to me in our tent, he goes, as soon as this is over, because he was going right from there, wait for 3 months and go over to Everest. He was like, you know what? I'm going to sell all my stuff. The day that this is over, I'm done.
Yeah.
Which just meant to me there was no passion. Right. I love climbing.
Yeah.
I've been climbing since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Right. This is nothing new for me. The people who know me. And you can't get in, especially. And then he did another really foolish thing, because he was a guy that had done really well in software and had a couple exits and had plenty of money. And he went with one of the cheap outfitters over there. And he kept telling me, he goes, these guys are a fraction of the cost of these other guys. You should go with these guys. That the thing that's a beer, they take the most amazing photographs when they're on top. And I just kept saying, well, okay, let's talk about this when you get back. Let's just see how it all plays.
Yeah.
And sure enough, cheapest outfitter up there, and they had 2 or 3 people die.
It's remarkable, like the cost and the reward of doing these things, like the good outfits. They don't have summit fever. They take it away from you. No, we're done. We're not going up. Whatever it is, and I can see that not being the case for someone who's trying to cut prices.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here, and if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
They don't have summit fever. They take it away from you. No, we're done. We're not going up, whatever it is. And I can see that not being the case for someone who's trying to cut prices.
Well, I'm actually going the other way. I it's not cheap, as you said.
Yeah.
But I literally, there's a guy that I've been, once you start climbing, you get kind of in this community of who the different outfitters are, the main ones, especially the U.S.-based ones.
Right.
And there's a guy named Garrett Madison, little plug there, Garrett, called Madison Mountaineering. And he is kind of that guy, 39, 40 years old, kind of his company's been on the upswing. He runs a more expensive outfit, but you also get the bells and whistles. And again, it gets down to the little things of when you're out there for weeks on weeks and weeks on end, having bad food sucks. You've been in the military, and so you've been out, right? You've been out there. Absolutely. Where you understand that. And to have the where you're not looking for the food, and so you're not eating as much because the food sucks, and your appetite gets suppressed because you're at higher altitude. Man, base camp. Yeah, we're sitting here today in Seal Beach, California, elevation probably 13 feet.
Yeah, right.
We were barely above, And I'm going to be living for 2 months at 17,500 feet.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
a whole mountain above what like Aspen is like.
Well, look at Whitney, which is the second highest mountain in it, right? And so we're in the state of California, and that's 14,500 feet.
Yeah.
And I'll still be another 3,000 feet above that.
Yeah. 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 It's a whole extra mountain on top of that too. Yeah. It's a crazy thing. So when you look at the different outfitters, obviously you know them by reputation. You have a goal, and we've talked about this a lot, but I think it's just so fascinating. You have a goal of doing these 2 mountains. It's exceptionally hard. Hardly anyone's ever done it. But when you get going, do you pre-program that decision in with your outfitter and say, this is the plan, and then you surrender the control to them, and so they keep you on path, and they say, because you got to be half crazy once you're up there, because you're not as well fed, and you're not as hydrated, and you're got no blood in your brain. Yeah. So is that what happens? So like they kind of take over and say, we're going to get you to do it if it's at all safe to do?
Yeah. And actually something that was important to me as I was evaluating all this is that I want to climb with the outfitter. Mm-hmm. And what was happening, there's some other people I've climbed with in the past, but they've come to the point in their career where they've done that. They've guided up there and they don't want to do that anymore. It's too risky for them, which is fine. And so they're the guys in the tent radioing up there, like, how are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And that's fine, and that's great for them. But I want to be with the guy that's actually, so it's just he and I going to go do the second mountain. I mean, I'll be with him on Everest going up there, part of this group. But, it would just be, I think he and I going up. And so he's all in on that. Right. And he's actually the one who talked me into it. Oh. So he's done it before. And so, he's got 1 or 2 of these under his belt. But
is it an upsell then? He's like, you know what? How about for $15,000 extra?
Yeah, no, it was a little bit of that, but I think that kind of went out the window, and he was going to do this regardless, but he also knows kind of so as I was evaluating all this, and then we go back to where we started, which is about Emilias Everest, right? And it's just like, well, maybe we could spin this in a way that now we're going, Emilias Everest, the Lhotse challenge, and have that as something that would be really cool.
If you guys are looking on the screen, that bit.ly link there, it goes to the charity that Mark's working with to do the challenge. So you can go there. And if you're listening on the podcast side, it'll be in the show notes that you guys can contribute to that to help fund the charity part. And it goes towards epilepsy. Is that right?
Well, it goes to Higher Ground, and it's such a great organization. I did this event January 3rd of last year to raise this money, right? And I did it all myself, and it was a lot of work. I went to every little store in Sun Valley, Idaho. And I said, would you contribute in some way? And so it might be a free ski wax or something, whatever it was, just to raise some money. And we did that. It was a raffle when we first walked in there. I had some amazing speakers. Peter Cetera of Chicago, Jamar was back, and another couple of people. But the net is that we ended up raising the money. And during that event at the end, there's a gentleman that came out to me and said, hey, sent me a card and said, give us a call. Yeah. I looked at it, had no idea what Higher Ground meant. Yeah. And then it's just got this cool tie-in of helping, and as a former NFL player, of having that life after football, and from you as a military guy, of what's life for you after you're doing podcasts, you're doing other cool stuff. But there's a lot of people that are lost out there. And the one thing that's, it's, you may or may not have some PTSD because you've seen some crazy stuff, but a lot of people stepped on IEDs and their legs. And so it's trying to bring them over to Sun Valley during the ski season, teach them how to ski down, on these adaptive different devices that they have, taking them out fly fishing and helping them get back into the game. Yeah. And so it's not just exclusively only for military people. And so with my daughter, with having a cognitive thing, so somebody might have PTSD, but she's got epilepsy. So it's all in the brain. Right. And it's just like, how can we all come together to create, this traction? And the other thing that's really cool too is the NFL is now going to be doing working on with them to give us a $10,000 grant to match funds. Nice. And so that will certainly give us a supercharge to get there.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And you're right. The adaptive life, it's easy. So one of the things, I don't know if you know this or not, and I was going to do a show about it, but the scheduling didn't work out. But the guys that run 22 Kill and my other friend, he lost his leg. These guys are veterans, and they said that the suicide rate between the amputees in the military is like 3x what the regular 22 is, because they, you're constantly going for a surgery. You're constantly fighting a bureaucracy, even if the bureaucracy wants to help you. Like you have to constantly fight for your care, and they get fed up with it. They give up. And so having something like Higher Ground where, hey, let's see if you're into fly fishing. Not into that? Okay, great. Let's see if you're into downhill skiing with this, adaptive thing. I mean, that's a powerful mission.
Well, they also have like 1,500. Well, they're in Sun Valley, Los Angeles, and New York, and they have these huge resources, and all those resources are not just guys like me doing what I'm doing or somebody donating money, but they also have the experts in the field to really help these people. So they'll bring in the fly fishing expert. But they'll maybe also bring somebody that helps deal with people, the psychologist or something to help.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Let's get back into the mountain part of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 weeks or so up and down the mountain, getting acclimated and climbing higher between camps?
Well, I'll be there 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a big chunk.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another thing too. There's the whole element. We're focused a little bit on the actual physical part of trying to pull something like this off. But there's a huge mental component because we're sitting here in the luxury of a Seal Beach home.
Yeah.
We've got Wi-Fi, we've got other things. And you get up there and it gets old really quickly on sleeping on ice and in tents, and you're cold and all these things and the food. And that's why you got to, when you're at that camp, they've kind of tricked it out a little bit, but you're trying to maximize your experience because you're not around any of your friends, your family, communication. And speaking of which, one of the things, and one of the ways that I knew Don was in major trouble last year, he got it from me. He didn't know these things existed, but I have a Garmin tracker.
Yeah.
And so this Garmin tracker, once I activate it, it can literally follow me, ... going up and down the mountain.
Right.
And I'll have that on my website.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
is it on Mark Pattison
NFL?
Okay.
Yeah, Mark Pattison, NFL.com.
Yeah, I'm going to put that here.
Yeah,
while you're talking.
That's great. Now, thank you. But you can literally watch me going up and down and up and down and up and down. I'll have a blog too that goes along with it. But it's a powerful feature. And when I saw Don on the mountain, it should take you like 8 hours or something to get to the top. Under normal circumstances, and he hadn't even got to the top, and he was at 19 hours. I knew he was in major trouble.
Yeah.
And the mountains that I was in Antarctica with him, climbing a mountain called Vincent Massif.
Yeah.
And, he and some other guys took off probably 3 or 4 hours before we did because we were a faster group. Yeah. And we still caught him and the others halfway up the mountain, and he was in bad shape. Yeah. So it was just, we knew that this is the one guy that should not be up the mountain. And 6 months before that, he was on Denali. I didn't know he was there. He happened to be there 3 days before me. Yeah. And he got frostbite, lost 3 fingers. And
oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a dangerous,
it is.
I mean, it looks cool. People read books, see movies, and they want to be that guy or girl. And, sometimes you're just not that guy or girl. I am not a great swimmer. Yeah. I talked about going down, but that's more just scuba diving stuff. But, if they had a race from here to Catalina, or even like, the Ironman stuff where you have to go 2.5 miles. Like, I wouldn't be good at that. I just think I'm just not a great swimmer. I can swim, but I'm not a great swimmer.
Yeah. I'll go get in the pool right now and I'll swim a mile. And I'm tired because I've swum a mile, but I can swim another mile easy, But I don't know that I would want to go up a mountain. Like everything, my hips would hurt, all that stuff. I think there's something in that challenge where you do get object fixated. And then if you hire a suboptimal outfitter who's not going to go, hey, shut it down, calm down.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
And people too, the motives are wrong because they always talk about when, many of the outfitters talk about the success rate. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when you're able to clock and say we have a 99% success rate, it's not about that, right? Yeah. And really, we talked about this a long time ago, but the mountains to me are very metaphorical. Mm-hmm. And so, as you know, my podcast is called Finding Your Summit. That's right. And so it's not literally about climbing the mountain. It's about trying to find whatever your summit is. What's your Everest? Right. What are you trying to get after? And it came from me from going through some hard, challenging times, man. Sure. And I just happened to I need to figure it out, and I need to emerge, and I need to have something big that's out there that's going to kind of pull me out of this bad place I was in to get me going. And then, it's just like anything. I wasn't thinking about Everest. I was only thinking about the first mountain.
Yeah.
And back in the NFL days, it'd be just that game. And then that happened. And then okay, now we're on to Russia. Let's go plan that one.
Yeah.
And let's go plan Australia. Let's go figure that out. Let's go figure out Argentina.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of slowly make your way around, and everyone was unique and different in its own way. But that also helped to pull me mentally, I think, spiritually and physically to a better place that now I'm kind of at my strongest point where I can take on this big ass mountain.
Yeah. Two big ass mountains.
Two big ass mountains.
How long is the ascent from the high camp to the top of Lhotse then? Is it like another full day, or?
These things are always weather dependent.
Right, sure.
But I think you can probably make it up there in 6 hours.
6 hours.
6, 7 hours. And certainly there's not going to be any lines or anything. I mean, I'll be up there on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you and your outfitter. Okay.
Yeah.
And then weather, earthquakes, there's a lot of things that can
yeah, and you brought up a really good point, because that's the one thing. This happened to me in 2017 on Denali, where Mother Nature took over. And there's sometimes where you just can't control what's going to happen. You mentioned the earthquake. There's a huge earthquake in Nepal. It took out a lot of infrastructure there, which is not great to start with.
Right.
And they had this, just crazy avalanche of stuff come down on all these campers there. And then the next year, there was a huge serac that fell. And then, that wiped out, killed a bunch of people going through the ice fall. And, then you go back to In the Thin Air, 1996 disaster on Mount Everest.
Right.
And you had all those guys go up. And that was really stupidity more than anything. Just because they
Do you think that time is over when something like that can happen?
Yeah, I do, because just the weather equipment, the forecasting is just a whole different level now.
Yeah.
And they literally climbed into a superstorm. And then they just did all like the guides, even though they were very respected, they did the worst possible things they could do for their clients, which was to continue to push them up. They ran out of oxygen tanks. There was a certain deadline that they had to turn around. They didn't.
Yeah.
And just because they said, I think I can make it. So they try to get them out. And then, just the whole thing collapsed.
Yeah. And then also governmental things like, hey, we're not giving out permits this year.
Well, the government did two things, which is number one, they said no permits as of last year.
Right.
For last season's climbing. So that's what happened then.
Yeah.
Right now, they opened it back up.
Okay.
The world is blowing up again right now.
Yeah.
So it's worse than ever.
Right.
Now there's a vaccine, so that's positive news about what might be around the corner. We'll see how that plays.
Yeah.
So we're planning to go right now. At the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, I was supposed to leave on a plane from LAX on the 31st of March. And I got news like the 21st of March.
Yeah.
Everything was shut down.
Yeah.
And this is when things were kind of like getting edgy.
Yep.
Like, where is this all going? This last year. So you just don't know. But one thing that they did do from this last year to what was going to be, or 2 years ago, from the big disaster up there to this new year, was to implement some new rules. You have to have climbed X amount of peaks at a certain height, and you had to have certain experience and take avalanche rescue and stuff like that. So even though it's not perfect right now over there, they try to do a few things to clean it up.
Yeah. And then what about all the trash up there? That's been a problem too. Are they debating that? Or?
Yeah, they are, and they're getting people. They have actual expedition teams that are going up there just to take the trash off, and they're So I think it's getting better.
What do they do with the dude that passes away? He's literally in the trailer walking over him. What do they do with him? Kick him down the mountain? Or?
Yeah, and this is one of the dirty little secrets that nobody tells you about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, pretty much everybody's left up on the mountain, and it's just endangers too many people to bring them down. And so they'll be attached to a rope in some cases, and they just essentially let him loose, and off he goes down a child.
Right.
It's just a sad, brutal reality of what goes on there, but you can't risk your life.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That guy.
Yeah, and you can't have them in the middle of the trail creating a new obstacle.
Yeah. Now there'll still be people when we go up there, but that's just part of it. And even though we're sitting here in the luxury of this home and the beach today, when you're in that game and you're in those circumstances, and I haven't seen a dead person on the mountain yet, but you're so really like zoomed in, and the only thing you're just like, I just gotta survive, and I gotta just keep doing what I gotta do, and not get consumed about the emotion of that.
Sure. And then just in general, I'm always curious about the pace, like how, and obviously it varies, weather, altitude, whatever it's going to be, but how fast are you going up? I mean, are you like a slow, steady walk?
It's going to be a slow, take a step, take a couple breaths, take another step, take a couple breaths. Typically, when you're going up, like these different mountains, I go up at a pretty fast pace, but you throw snow, ponds, cold weather, lots of gear, and then just thin air. You're slowing it down. Now, when you're going through, when you're at base camp and right out of base camp, you got to deal with the Kumba ice field.
Yeah.
And so that's a floating, moving glacier. Those are the pictures that you see with the ladders that are going across, and they move something like 3 feet a day.
Wow.
So it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
In terms of, if you can imagine a ladder is set and then the whole thing shifts. So the ladder falls and so they recommend that when you're going through that, it's just go through with speed. Yeah. As fast as you can go and be safe.
Because it's moving. Yeah. And it's crazy to think that how many ladders are down in some crevasse somewhere. It's like Ace Hardware down there.
Yeah. They call them actually the Kumba Ice Doctors. So it's a bunch of Sherpas from Nepal, obviously, that go through, and that's their job, is to secure the route every day.
Yeah. That's insane. When you think about like going into combat, people ask me similar questions like, is it scary? But once I've set my mind to the task, we've done all of our briefings and everything, when I walk off the camp, the decision for me is made. Like there's no more reason to be afraid, like because I'm going out there. Now that we may hit some terrifying moment or something, but day to day, patrol for patrol, people get hurt, they get injured, they get shot or whatever it is, but you still have to go back out the next day because that's your job.
Well, yeah, what you said is interesting because to me, it's a lot of really focused on being in the moment, right? And that's what you are, is being in the moment. It's one step after the other. Now, are you daydreaming about something sometimes, but you're not thinking about tomorrow, the next day, or the next day after that, just because everything is constantly changing and everything. It's just, when the next stop, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to drink? What are you going to eat? And then, it's just up and down, up and down. And that's why I was saying earlier that so much of mountain climbing game is the mental part of trying to stick with it. Yeah. Because it's a lot of people just to get to the point, like, I just want to go home. Yeah. I'm starting to think about things. It's sad to say, but I've got 2 daughters and really can't spend a whole lot of time thinking about, I'm missing home. You got to think about what's so amazing about being there in that moment. And there's another time and another moment you'll be back on a beach somewhere. Yeah. But you got to focus. Otherwise, once you lose that confidence, you're done.
And then do you take time just to, because it's easy to look at your boots and just climb and climb. Do you take time to sit up and look around and go, oh my God, I'm on this mountain?
Yeah, and I'll especially do it on that mountain because I've been fascinated with it from, when I was a little kid. I grew up in the state of Washington. Right. And there's many famous climbers that came out of the state of Washington. We've got a big mountain up there called Mount Rainier. You may know that. But it's also right around 14,500. But it really has all the elements that a mini element that a big Everest has, with crevasses and glaciers and everything. And the Whitaker brothers came out of there. They're very famous. First American, Jim Whitaker, that climbed Mount Everest, and Ed Viesters, and has done all the 14 meter peaks over there, 8 meter peaks with no oxygen, and other guys like that. So it's got quite the climbing community.
What does it take in terms of training day to day to be prepared? I'm not saying like run up the damn thing at 100 miles an hour, but is it an hour a day every day for 6 months? Or is it like training for a marathon?
I usually go about 3 hours a day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I do CrossFit in the morning, and then I go 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon. I work my ass off during those periods of time because I have to monetize my life. But it's just like, that's what I feel like I need to be successful in this, and just really develop not only being acclimated, but just having a really strong, because a lot of those times, I mean, I'm not like any different than anybody else in terms of some days, I'm like, I just don't feel like this, but I got to do it. And I have that guilt complex if I don't go do it. And so I go and it's one foot after the other and I kind of get it going and get a sweat going and then I'm getting into it. Yeah. But, I was saying this to somebody the other day, the only thing, because I don't think I'm special in any way. The only thing that separates me between others, if there is a separation, is just the tenacity of the daily discipline of not letting off pedal on the metal. Yeah. Right. And I just keep going and I don't stop. And that's nothing amazing. I just know that if I don't do that, I won't accomplish this goal. Right. Which is so important to me.
Right. Yeah. And it's incredible to be that driven and that clarity that comes with that, like to do this, I have to, this is like the strategic and tactical coming together. I'm a big fan of this, like every day, day to day, feet on the floor, you talk about that and then up and out the door. So, you have to go out and do those 3 hours. There's no negotiating with it. I mean, sure, your mind and your body tries to trick you, but you still have to do it every day because that increases your safety, your performance, everything when you're on the mountain and it's showtime.
You said something really interesting, which is about increasing your chances, and I really love that word because I think when they talk about success rate and death rate and all this other stuff on these big mountains, and everything that you just talked about. What I'm trying to do is increase my possibilities, my chances for my success rate, right? By reducing the risk factor, the better shape you're in, the more you've acclimated, the more you've been in miserable situations that you've had to get yourself out of. Yeah. There's no substitute beyond experience and doing something. And that's why I moved to Sun Valley. I lived out here in California. Yeah. It was just like, what? I can't get what I need out of my dream of one day. So I'm just going to move my whole flipping life and recreate it in a new area where I can do those things. And put me in a miserable. It just started snowing there a few days ago. So it's like game on now. I mean, but now I'm going to be cleaning snowshoes. I'm going to be skinning up and, going through all the things. And it's just, mountain cold weather when you're going in, 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 0 degrees. Yeah. You got to like strap it on and get ready to get out the door. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you do weight training too? Weighted on your back?
Not really. Yeah, and especially that really mattered, even though I didn't train like that. It mattered on Denali because every person carries 140 pounds, which is insane weight on your back. Right. But here you have Sherpas, right? And so they'll be carrying the bulk of the weight. So I'm not, outside of the daily weight stuff that we do every day, I don't train away.
So 2 months on the mountain, up and down, getting acclimated, moving things up to the camp, all those things you have to do. There is a high probability that some part of your body will be in some way injured, even if it's a minor thing. Yeah. But how injured can you be and still safely climb? Like if you tweak your knee or, because that happens every day. I mean, people walk out their front door and go, my back, my sciatica, all those things. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it would have to be something pretty severe to keep me back. And one of the things that's great too is they, I'm not sure who funds this, but they always have a doctor's tent at base camp of Everest. And so, when people come down, they have issues and everything else. You go see the doc in the tent.
Yeah. Yeah. And that guy tells you, that's it, you're done. Or
they'll tell you something. And it's going to be, severe. And the thing that's wacky when you live at 17,500 feet that I've been told, especially it was high risk this year, is you go into this small community, it's empty right now. And then all these people go in. And so if somebody had coronavirus, it's easily spreadable. Right. And so I had already, before this coronavirus thing hit, I'd gone out and bought all these plastic gloves, rubber gloves that I was going to wear just like walking around Kathmandu and just, I was going to wear a mask, ready to go. Yeah. Just back here. This is my one I got from Antarctica. For anybody that's watching Antarctica right there. So I was going to, wear this around my face. Yeah. just walking around anyhow, just to prevent these viruses, because people they call it the Kumba cough, and you get this, stuff down your lungs, and you just can't get it out.
Yeah,
and so those little things can become really big things that go up.
Yeah, and you would hope that, like, if you are exposed, you're asymptomatic, because it would really suck to be somewhere on that climb and you realize it's hit, and now because I can't imagine, you're not all that close to medical care. Like, if you need to get somewhere and get a steroid treatment or whatever.
Well, they can fly helicopters to a certain distance up there, and I have insurance for that. But, I guess really to your point is you don't want to be in that situation.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, I don't want to be flown off the mountain.
Yeah.
In all the range of things that could possibly happen,
right.
I do not want to get in that flipping helicopter.
I'm a big believer that if you're outside, you pretty much can't get it, but you guys are all walking up the same path, and people are emptying out their lungs, like with every gasp. Really a lot of
but you're also gathering in tents, at night where, call it the mess hall. To your soldier day. It's that type of thing. And, there's just possibility. So I think the wild card as we sit here today on the 11th of November, 2020, is that by the time that I get up there in late April, I'll be there in April, but climbing my way up to base camp, and now we're there, what advances have been made as a vaccine. That's going to 90% or better, or some level. I've got something like this in my back pocket just in case there's some outbreak.
Do you have any fear of getting the vaccination? Like, if it was available right now, would you just?
I was talking to Darcy, my girl over here, about that yesterday. We were both saying, "Hell no!" We're gonna have Pete take it first, and if he falls over, then we're gonna take it.
I was told that there's mini robots that are in the shot. Some of the people that are really like conspiracy, and maybe there are robots in it. Who knows? But that's the next question: is do you expose yourself, or do you just go to one of these young kid like Corona parties and just go get it and deal with it now, and eliminate it from?
I don't know. I really do believe I've been super cautious. Like a lot of people, sounds like you have too. But I really feel that my getting the right sleep, having the right diet, and I wake up every morning to my 7 Summit smoothie. It's fantastic. But then working out, with this kind of relentless discipline of not skipping a day, has really helped me to, in part, create a force field around me a little bit. Now, maybe that's just in my mind, and really I don't have a cape. But it feels that way, and I feel like I'm less likely to. And even if I got it, I could take that on. So I'm saying this, knock on wood, that I don't get it and I don't have to. But surely all the things I just said can only be good. The good things to be.
You're positioned in the best possible way to do a really hard thing, and you're giving yourself every opportunity. But it also sounds like, when you do something like this, what you need when you go on a patrol. I know what I need to bring. You don't bring 5,000 rounds of ammo because you just can't carry it, or if you do, you've got to spread it around the whole patrol, like you just can only carry so many things. And so you really determine what's this, like a necessity, and what's, a luxury. You don't carry a big, crazy Rambo knife because that thing's heavy, and I can probably carry a tourniquet and a small knife together, and I might actually need a tourniquet, So all of these things. But I think that also applies to your day-to-day life too. One of the things that I frequently say to people that talk like about, woe is me, or I think you're so bad. I'm like, if you are working as hard as you can on whatever it is that you do, like what you're doing with the mountain, you're going to run out of time for other problems that aren't really, like, you're borrowing trouble. Like, if you just focused on the thing that you're doing, starting your business, getting that degree, whatever it is, if you're doing it hard enough, a lot of the other things kind of go away because you're just focused on it. 3 hours a day you're working out, so you can go up the mountain. You don't got time to be on Facebook trying to solve a problem that you can't solve,
Yeah, no, it makes you really focus on the things that matter. I work for Sports Illustrated, and it's a company that we took over a year ago, and that's been a fascinating experience. But there's just constant opportunity. There's constant things, and like you said, when you go and you're going to attack a goal, between your personal relationships, between your professional job that you do, and between your hobby. So I guess this would be my hobby.
Yeah.
I'm out also, once public speaking, I'd love to be out back on the circuit again. Right now that's shut down, that part of the world. But But you just have to be very strategic and very disciplined about your day.
Yeah.
And I don't take hour-long lunches with people, and I try to fit in, do this podcast once or twice a week. But it's just you got to be very strategic and chop it down to bite size so you can accomplish all this stuff. And there's like everything. There's a pro and a con. There's sacrifices.
Yeah.
And assuming that we were in a real world. And that COVID had wrecked, but I don't go out to bars. I don't stay out late. I'm always very disciplined about what time I go to bed.
Sure.
Because early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Go to bed early, get up early.
Yeah.
Right?
It's we talked to a lot of musicians on the show too, and any seasoned musician that's been around for a while no longer goes out and drinks all night. They're athletes because they've got to stay fit to be on the road. Yeah, they've been through all that, and they're like, that doesn't work.
Who's your most famous example of that?
Well, there's a lot of people that have done this, but so there's a guy, Tommy McElroy, who he created In Vogue, and he's got songs that we've all heard. His catalog is so powerful, he leases it out to a company. Mm-hmm. They do what they want with it, and so that's how successful he is. And he is a multi-stripe black belt. He's in fantastic shape.
That's cool.
And then he can sit in his producer chair for hours, but he also has to go out and do the other thing too. So he's mastered what it takes physically, mentally to actually do both things really well.
Yeah. A buddy of mine is Duff McKagan, who is founders of Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And, I've sat with him plenty of times, and when he was completely out of control.
Right.
I mean, literally to the point where the doctor came in and said, "You have one more drop of alcohol, you will die."
Yeah.
Or you have more liver.
Right.
Your liver's fried. And he changed it, and then he slowly got rid of the alcohol, slowly got rid of the drugs, slowly got rid of smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And just became this workout freak.
Yeah.
And scholar. Really smart guy, but really just took that same energy that was being destructive and made it into a positive thing.
Yeah, and you're able to channel it in a way that makes sense. Sometimes you don't know what channel you need, and that's the work, and that's where you might end up doing booze or whatever. You've got to work on that channeling of things. Once you've hit Lhotse at the top of it, I know you're going to keep climbing mountains, but really, what is next, though?
There's a mountain in Papua New Guinea. Mm-hmm. That I'm really interested in, called Carson's Pyramid.
Okay.
And I'm interested in that mountain because there's a guy named Dick Bass who I was very fortunate to meet. He's the guy that came up with this mythical 7 summits, the 7 highest peaks on 7 continents. And the way that he did it is he went down to Australia and climbed a mountain, which I've climbed, called Mount Kosciuszko.
Right.
Not a really hard mountain, but it's one of the 7.
Yeah.
And so this is splitting hairs.
Mm-hmm, right. Yeah.
What is really the highest mountain in the South Pacific?
Right.
And is it this mountain in Australia that I did, or is it this other one, Carson's Pyramid?
Yeah.
And probably some of it is wrapped around just these outfitters found another mountain, go climb, and so they say, well, this is actually the official one. So just to button it all up in a good time way to say I've actually done both of those.
Yeah.
I think I can't imagine what this must look like. I've talked to people who've gone to Papua New Guinea. The natives are still running around in the loincloth, and blowing darts. And I've had guys that literally have seen the scars from being held up.
Yeah,
give me all your money.
Wow.
So it's still kind of a crazy environment. Tribes are fighting with each other, but the climbing isn't that tough. There's one tough day. But beyond that, I mean, that to me is pretty fascinating.
Will always be tied to charity for you too, as well. We always do
that.
Yeah. What makes you so powerful with your charitable charter?
Well, again, the actual charter is through Higher Ground, and it's just until my daughter. I mean, look. For me to go out and ask for some money is an easy thing compared to what she has to deal with. She has daily seizures,
right?
Seizures.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I can't imagine that. We've got a common friend, Phil, who's going through some challenging times right now, and both of us can't imagine what he's going through.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't deserve this.
Yeah.
My daughter doesn't deserve it.
Right.
And somehow or another, she got that card. She can't drive. She's never driven.
Right.
It's really no riding bikes, no monkey bars, all that stuff.
Yeah.
She's getting an age where fortunately, at least, they have Uber. And
Yeah.
so she's not completely stranded.
Right.
It's just a matter of driving her own car.
Yeah.
I do believe that one day she will be healed, but until that she gets to that point, as her dad, I'm committed to that cause.
I love it. You want to ask me any questions before we wrap up?
How's the Break It Down show going?
It's bonkers. It continues to grow and get bigger and bigger.
How many episodes have you done now?
We're brushing up against 900.
God, you're just a power player, man.
Yeah, just doing it, and it's getting bigger, and more opportunity comes in. You just sort of you create it, let it go be what it is, and it continues to say, "How about this opportunity? How about this opportunity? How about meeting this person?" And so, you always need more revenue,
Yeah.
but you can't ask for more blessings than what I get from the show. It's
that
really
is fantastic. One of the things that's like as I follow your stuff in Sun Valley, and I think one of the things that you found and I have found is that this takes work. It takes work to go chase down the person. We don't have schedulers, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes people flake or they forget or whatever. And then you got to research, what's their deal and all that. And that all takes time. But every single time that I sit down, there's two things that come away with it. Is that person was so inspiring. Number one, my show is about people who are converse and find their way. So a little bit different theme. And then the second part of that is just expanding your network. I mean, there's like, for example, somehow or another, you and I met a year or two ago. We did a podcast. And through that, you ended up connecting me with Gabby recently. Ended up doing a podcast. I've been up to their house multiple times, working out in the pool. We married. They're wonderful people. So every single time I'm just like, that person just added to my life. Like what they're doing, what they're saying, my ability to connect. I would never have Heisman Trophy winners. I mean, it goes on and on and on the people I've been able to have access to.
Yeah, it is really incredible. Find what your passion is. Find your summit, and definitely check out Mark's show, Finding Your Summit. For more information on Mark, you can always go to markpattisonnfl.com. And then once again, the link for the charity stuff is there on the video side. On the podcast side, look in the. Oops, that's the wrong one. Got too many things going on. And then on the podcast side, look in the show notes, and the link will be in there. That's also the wrong one. Anyhow, okay.
Don't worry, there's links I'll find all over.
There's so many links.
Yeah. Where's my link?
I'll just put that right
there.
Mark
MarkPattisonNFL.com. You can get all your stuff there as well.
All right, everybody. Take care.